Well, g'day. This is just when you think things have gone perfectly. This will be the first half of the CPAP video I'm bringing to you today, which I shot a while back and then realised for some reason, and I won't blame anyone except myself, the first half of the video was not shot. Luckily I had a phone call from someone in the hospital actually, so I paused everything and so part 2 will be coming along as per shot. This is just a bit of a catch up on the introduction to the CPAP, hoping I'm not doubling over what I said too much. Basically what I wanted to speak to you about today was CPAP. This is mine. It's it looks massive, but it's not that massive. It's massive because of that separate part there, which I'll try and show you briefly, is under the hose, is the humidifier. Well worth buying if you don't have one and you're being forced into using CPAPs. Mine is a ResMed brand. I guess the other two most popular brands are Philips and Fisher Paykel. One thing you've got to know heading into this, CPAP machines are extremely expensive, and the consumables are likewise expensive. Case in point, and I've already pulled this apart to show you before, but they call this the cushion. It's the part that fits on the mask there and you wear in your face. That is anywhere from 50 to 80 bucks. That's with this rubber part. There's an actual frame part of it that's 30, 40 bucks, I don't know. So this is rubber, okay, it's a good soft rubber. I'm sure a lot of technology has gone into it, but it's rubber and it's disposable. Your typical strap, your headgear as they call it, that holds the mask onto your face, that could be, depending where you get it, 50 to 70 or 80 bucks. And you've got to replace this stuff every 6 to 12 months. So it's not cheap. Certainly it's not a sport, but it does make a difference. I'll tell you why it is worth doing that rather than put up with trying to get every last second out of it you can. Because if you've ever worn a CPAP mask and it doesn't fit right, you'll get frustrated because you'll hear this farting and pissing and spitting of the air as it escapes around the seal, and all it's going to do is frustrate you more, make you feel more claustrophobic. That's what I find, and shoot up the anxiety levels, and you rip off the thing, swearing you're never going to use the rotten thing again. So then you've got to wait till you calm down and maybe you'll try again. So yeah, it's not cheap. That machine I showed you there, I don't know what the latest model is worth, 2 to 3 grand. I know depending on makes and models you can pay like 5 grand, which is nuts. I mean, yeah, one day when this one blows up I'll pull it apart to see what sort of motor's in it. It's got to be a damn good motor to do this essentially every night, keep running for, in theory, up to 8 hours, whatever you sleep. I don't sleep that long myself. For me, I find that I could get anywhere from 1 hour to 3. I think the most I've ever got in one run is like 3.5, 4 hours, maybe a bit longer. But it would be only a couple of times a year. But that's about me. That's not about the CPAP technology or the machine or anything. That's just me. We'll work on that one, but it won't be the CPAP machine that'll fix it. So yeah, look, don't be frightened if you've been told you need to do it. I didn't go the way that most people do, and the way you really should. Let's go to a sleep clinic first. I was booked in, but for whatever reason I found the excuse not to. I ended up though going to one of the private hospitals and paying to be kitted out with all the monitors and sleep overnight at home. I'll see if I can find a picture of that. Which essentially told the clinician later on that, yeah, I had 1,000 episodes a night of not breathing, or apneas. So that's never a good thing. Typically, I did have someone tell me once that the average person in the street may have 6 to 8 or so apneas per night without ever being diagnosed or specifically noticing any negative problems. So it's not unusual, it's not desirable, and certainly if you've been told you need it, it's worthwhile pursuing. I could not get used to it for a long time. A very long time. I felt claustrophobic, and that's why I'm saying you've got to find a mask that suits. I don't know how much of this I've covered in the other half of the video now, but I started off with was actually what was that? It was the Fisher and Paykel Simplex, which is not a bad fit. You see it's not bad. And in fact, I've used this recently when I was struggling with getting a proper seal on the one I normally use, which is the and these are unpaid. There's not a paid ad or anything. The Resmed Mirage Quattro, which fits like that. Fits a lot. It's a lot bigger, and I find less claustrophobic. Did just try one I bought online, and here's the downside of doing that, which is supposed to be the latest and greatest resmed, called the Air, which in fact is this one, but because I ordered medium, the same size as the one I normally use, I'm sorry, they've made a mistake badly, because this is way too small. And you can see once I open my mouth and everything, pretty well half my mouth is opened. So, yep, we'll have to pursue that. They're not cheap. That's I think $190 I got that for. Yeah, so you're in for an expensive thing if you've been told you need CPAP gear. How I started off with mine, the very first episode was when about 3 years ago I was in the hospital for a month or whatever, in a coma for the first half of it with double pneumonia. When they moved me up to a ward, they said, well, you've got sleep problems, so we're going to stick one of these on your face, on top of all the drama of, like, my God, I've just come from the brink of death. I don't think they should have done it. However, don't approach that as your first step. Let's say you've been diagnosed or whatever. So what do? I ended up renting one. Most of the CPAP supply shops will do that. It wasn't cheap. It was either $100 or nearly $200 a month, but it let me get some idea of living with it. It was a Fisher and Paykel. It was an automatic unit, which more or less decided what the pressure I needed was. They're not a perfect science, but yeah, it was enough for me to go, well, I'll look around at buying one. I was not about to fork out thousands for a new machine. So check out the second-hand market if that's the way you want to go. There's a fair bit of competition, because there's a lot of people becoming relying on the machine. So, but if it's not urgent, while you're renting one, ideally just start shopping around, see what you can get. Maybe make an offer for something you find on the one of the websites. So that's the way I went. Not by all means buy one new. You have a lifetime warranty that way. Yeah, so essentially I'll try and merge this video into the second half, which I think I've pretty well covered. Look, just a quick essential things you have to do, like in here on this model is the filter, little air filter thing. You have to replace that pad every couple of months, depending on the dusty environment you're in or lack of. They're not that expensive. It's like $10-15 for a pack of 3 or 4. No, I can't get back in. The hose. This one I tend to use as a heated hose. I've already bought another one, and it plugs into the back of the machine. On mine like this, it twists, and then it's controlled. It's actually a little coil. But for most parts of Australia, around my way anyway, you really probably don't need that. And it'd be handy in very icy cold countries like New Zealand and up the north and parts of America, etc. Now you can pay $80 for a hose. This is a slimline hose. It's fairly slim. The other one, I didn't grab one, but it's probably an inch in diameter. I just prefer this. I think it's a little less intrusive. So yeah, maybe once a year get one of those. You have to maintain this gear too. The humidifier, or the container, which in this model comes out there like that. You fill it up to a line that you can't see here with distilled water, ideally distilled. And after a while, I haven't replaced it yet, but yeah, you're supposed to replace those containers maybe every year or two, I don't know. I don't think that one's that critical. But the other things, yes, definitely, you will not get a good seal if the material has started to lose its flexibility, or the strap has lost some of its durability. Like you see, there's a fair bit of, I know that's slightly out of focus, there's a fair bit of recovery there. Once they get a bit old, they don't tend to do that, and you find the only way you can get a successful seal is to put it on tighter and tighter, which you're not meant to do, and that's bloody uncomfortable. And I tell you, that will make you feel claustrophobic and angry and anxious. So yeah, you have to spend the money, unfortunately. It's like, you know, like boats or anything that's a toy, where there's a demand, you know the supplies are going to be high. Yep, so right, now back to part 2, where hopefully I'll try not to have said too much too often of the same thing. Any questions, go ahead and ask. There is a little SIM card, memory card, inside the machine, which in this case is here, and it just slots in there. I'll put a link in the description of a little program that'll give you a guide as to how you're doing with that. Then you can see how many apneas you had per night. Ideally you should have none, but you will find you'll get a variance. So yep, popping this little note in there just to add that. So have a look in the description, and I'll put a link to where I found this free software, because other than that you have to go back to a clinician. And I'm not saying don't do that, I'm saying if you want a guide. Sorry about that. So where was I? Yep, the upkeep of these things is not cheap. In fact, the machines, don't ever think they're cheap, they are not. I haven't checked the latest prices. I'll put a link on, if you buy off Amazon, I'll put a link there. If you're in America specifically, you can probably get a really good price. But don't think you're going to get them cheap. You're not. I ended up buying mine. In fact, I bought 2. One of them I just resold for basically the same cost, so it cost me almost nothing. Yep, I think maybe there's a newer model too. I think $2,000 to $3,000, and you can pay more than that. Like I said, not cheap. Have to say though, I'd be curious, like if this ever burns out, I will pull it apart to check out the motor, because there's got to be a hell of a decent motor in there to every night just supply that constant pressure. Quite magical. But like anything that's vital to your health or a hobby, they know how to charge. I'll give you, for instance, to see, I've got a couple of masks here, which I'll show you in a sec. The one that I have been using is the Mirage Quattro, which needs a good clean. The pillow, as they call it, which is the rubbery part that fits on your face, typically that would be, believe it or not, about $80. I'll show you how that fits actually. This is what you get for $80. You might be able to get them for 70. That's what you get. Rubber. Lasts you typically maybe 6 months. $80, throw it away. Great, isn't it? A complete mask with headgear, and this is what they call headgear, is this stuff that goes around your head, which I now pulled everything apart. Basically goes around your head, wraps on there, holds your mask in, and so forth. That might be anywhere, maybe $50 on eBay if you look. $70, $80, depending on which shop you buy it from. And you have to replace those, I'd say certainly at least every year. Also maintenance, you have to, something I didn't realise for a while, till a former friend pointed out, every week the hose that goes from the machine to the mask, you should be washing that out in warm soapy water, rinsing it out and hanging the hose up somewhere outside, not in the sun, but to dry, because you don't want the bacteria in there to be sucked into your lungs. Same with the, if you can see it, the water reservoir, which in this case, as I said, looks like that. Take it all apart, soapy water, not too hot, let it have a soak, rinse it all in clean water, put it out in the shade somewhere to dry for the rest of the day. So there's a bit of upkeep involved. And the mask, we'll get into the section now of what I found with masks. How I started off, once I didn't like in hospital where they were forcing me basically to, no, you've got to have the mask on, you know, we need to do a sleep study. You don't do that to me, okay, not to me, because you will get nowhere. So let's fast forward. I've now looked at it myself like, well, alright, okay, did the study and yes, extremely bad sleep apnea. We better look at something. What I ended up doing, of course I explore every option I possibly can, as you guys probably do too. If you're avid YouTube watchers, you probably do. What I ended up doing was hiring a machine. It wasn't one of these, it was an automatic machine where in theory you don't have to have a sleep study to tell you what pressure to set it to. There's a whole lot of things when this is powered up, options and settings you can change. Sorry about the shaking. I'm using the GorillaPod. A little spontaneous review of the JB GorillaPod. You see that when I hit the table? Okay. Show you again. I can see it particularly shaking with the camera. Yeah, that's a side issue, but the GorillaPod, it's fantastic. I love it. I love being able to just flip it around easily, but you don't have the same stability as a separately mounted tripod, of course. But then the tripod's not on the table, so having trouble keeping up? Try. Let's go back to the CPAP thing. I hired one. I think it was close to $200 a month, or at least it was $100. So I rented that for a month at least to give me an idea. And look, seriously, some people take to them like a duck to water apparently. Not me. I had major issues with overcoming the claustrophobia feeling. And in fact, as a now probably seasoned, must be 2 to 3 years as a CPAP user now, I still get the odd time where I feel claustrophobic. And that time for me is when you'll be trying to put the mask on, and I've pulled it all apart now. And for whatever reason, in this case, the reason for me, the seal is now getting worn, the strap is worn. When the straps wear, they lose their flexibility, and the only way you can get a tight seal, apart from go to the Antarctic, boom, is to like tighten it a bit more. So you end up with this tight thing which you don't want. It's not how you're supposed to use them. So yeah, getting that set right, because anyone who's ever used one will know about the farting sounds that you will get, and the squeaks and the beeps and the creeps while you're trying to stop air leaks from around where the mask is. This is, by the way, these are full face masks for obvious reasons. You can get nasal masks, a couple of variants. I'm a mouth breather, as they say, so yeah, I needed one of these. What you need to do is find a mask that will suit you. I started off using, I ended up buying one after a while. It was I was going to say Hewlett Packard. It was a Fisher & Paykel Simplex, which I believe is this one. Yep, Simplex. Yeah. So it's not bad. I didn't mind it for a while. You can see it fits like that. Plus you have the straps and everything, which I've just taken off, that wraps around. It's not bad. You've got a fair bit of clearance there. I didn't find they were too claustrophobic. And then what happened is when I had to replace that one, I thought I'll try what came with the machine, because I bought it second hand. I got a mask and everything, so thought we'd have a go at that. And that was the resmed Mirage Quattro, which has been around for ages. And you see how it kind of just sits a bit. And to me, there was less claustrophobic, so that's why I've ended up going for the last 18 months. However, now it's due for a seal and strap replacement again. I just yesterday looked at alternatives. There's a new one that resmed makes called the Air. I've bought one of those. I bought it off eBay, which was substantially cheaper. However, I ordered the medium size, which is the same size as I've been using for the other one, and it's way too small, because to breathe with my mouth, I'm like my mouth's half hanging out through the mask. So thank you, resmed, for confusing people. I'm sure I'm not the first. It doesn't, and one of the claims for this one too, this is not a paid advert, of course. One of the claims with this version of resmed, which is a side issue to CPAP in general, is that it's less claustrophobic. Well, it's a bit different. This one just clips on like this. Well, you see, I struggle because I'm not used to it. Basically clips on like that, and then a hose comes along, clips on there, rah. Every one is a bit different. That doesn't to me feel that. It feels fine because I'm used to CPAP now, but I wouldn't say it's the freest one I've had. Definitely to me the old Mirage Quattro seems to give you a bit more room. Yeah, I mean, I'm used to that. Whatever you're used to. Try a few different masks. That's not always going to be easy, and your best step would be to do that at a sleep clinic, where I guess they've got spares and things that they will use, and I guess they have to throw them away by law these days. You need a mask that you're comfortable with. There's a few varieties. Like I say, the Simplex, I've used this recently when I couldn't get a decent seal on the other one, and it got me through. Personally, I don't stay asleep all night on the CPAP. I would love to. As a rule, I will get a block of sleep, maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours, 3 hours. The longest I think I've ever had with CPAP is 4.5 hours. That's extremely rare. That's like once or twice a year. Other people, they'll pop them on at night and sleep for your normal, 6-8 hours. I don't know. It's just not me, and that's not a reflection on the CPAP technology at all. That's just me, and perhaps what's in my head, I don't know. So yeah, as a rule, most people find sleep is a lot better. I will tell you one thing too, while I'm trying to remember all these things to let you know about CPAP. I found in the beginning that it took a lot of getting used to, and I mean a lot of getting used to, like a good couple of months before I was even comfortable enough to try and use it every night. Now I do. Of course, I usually go to bed so late. It's not funny anyway. Now I do, but for ages I was just, not tolerant. It took a lot of time to build up tolerance. So you may find that too. Just the main purpose of the video was to let you know, consumables, hoses. Even one of these hoses. This is a heated hose, which you probably don't need in most areas of Australia. It's got a bit flattened too, which it's not supposed to be. And it, in this case, simply goes like this. hooks up to there and clicks into place. Then you control the humidity or have it on automatic. And on the other end of that, this goes into your mask, and we'll click on it like that. Like that. One thing that is definitely not standardized amongst CPAP, it's a little bit like cars. The actual attachments, they all seem to be different. They would be roughly the same size, but like 1 millimeter out. So I've had to actually modify a few, like you see a cable tie wrapped around this hose. That works. So yeah, everything's slightly different like this. Even resmed, from one to the other, that is a different size to the resmed that I've been using. I think that probably sums it up. Trying to help. Drop me a line if you're curious about anything. For me, they did take a lot of getting used to, and as I say, other people will just take to them like a duck out of water. So yeah, I guess, look, if you're getting good quality sleep as a result of them, they're a godsend. And as I also mentioned, you're paying a hefty premium for that godsend. And by the way too, look, it is a general thing that people that are overweight do tend to have sleep apnea more often than people that are not. However, that is general, because there are a lot of people, perfectly skinny, normal sized people, that have sleep apnea. So don't assume that everyone overweight will even have sleep apnea. So let me know if that was helpful, and if it was, maybe just share it around a bit. I'm doing as I usually do, actually enjoying it. I'm making a couple of videos, which I love. If I'm not acting, I like making videos. That's pretty well where I'm at in life. I like it, I love it. And it's certainly a distraction of other things in my mind. So those of you that take the time to drop a note and say g'day or make a comment, I appreciate it. You may not think so. There's like the majority of people out there on YouTube are, get 6 million, 9 million hits in the first hour. I'm not a Casey Neistat. So look, any input I get is great. Any suggestions, I'd love to, providing I make it through this Friday with the angioplasty or whatever may happen. I intend to keep on making videos. If you guys like them, that's a bonus. If not, well, I just keep on doing it. I have done for quite a while now, probably 10 years or more. 96, I think. Maybe 11 years. Started off slowly and just once in a blue moon. And of course, the last couple of years, I've just really got into it. Still isn't paying me anything. I think I've been on. I think they paid me $80 10 years ago. Then maybe another $80 American. I'm still waiting to clock over the third lot of $80, despite the fact that I've made hundreds of videos. So don't give up your day job. I don't do it for the money. But it's pretty cool when someone actually drops you a note and says, "Hey, I enjoyed that," or whatever. It's pretty cool. I love it, and I love you guys for tuning in. Don't think that this is just an off the cuff comment. Especially lately on a personal level with my health concerns, it means a lot to me. So cheers everyone. If you want to share the video around and pass it to people that you know may have sleep apnea, please do, and please check out my other videos. I know they're a bit disjointed in sequence at times and sometimes a bit random, but hey, there you have it. Starting to look like it might rain today too. So there we go. The pool pump hasn't come on yet to ruin the audio. I believe the audio is still going. All is good in the world at the moment. Catch you next time. Bye.